but feel free to react. How often do we sit with something that someone has said or something that happened, and we start imagining a conversation in our head? We say something that we wanted to say that we couldn't say in the moment. We come up with the answer that we didn't have, or we imagine the other person saying something. And sometimes what we imagine the other person or people saying or how they're reacting has nothing to do with them. It's based on how we're feeling, what we're worried about with them. We can get ourselves into trouble if we start reacting to other people based on the conversations that we're having in our head. And in this particular imaginary conversation, the answer that I came up with was accepting, not dodging. And there's a lot of different ways to take it, but I think it works in talking about patience, because patience doesn't mean one thing. It's got different dimensions to it. But certainly, I think one thing that I heard Amy saying is we accept what has just happened. Doesn't mean we don't react at all. It doesn't mean we don't work with what's going on. But if our first reaction is, then we're dodging it. If we really wish this wasn't happening, or the person hadn't said that, or they'd said something differently, then we're not accepting reality. We're imagining it perhaps differently in our heads, or we're just keeping it at arm's length. Flip it over onto the other side, though. Not dodging also means not dodging our own reaction, or not dodging what we need to do, whether it's to respond the way we think we should, or with the way we think the situation requires. But it also means responding to our reaction, not just shutting it off, not just pretending we didn't have that thought when we read the email or when we heard something that someone was saying. So that's part of what we have to accept as well. We're constantly in dialogue with everything that's going on around us. And so much of that dialogue is in here as well as out there. So if we can find this balance, and I think it makes sense to think of it as a balancing act, that we're constantly trying to accept and not dodge, maybe we can use that as something to work on in today's meditation. And if you want to take it in a different way, based on Amy's theme of patience, we can do that too.
There are thousands of people in the world who are laughing at the words Amy and patience right now. I just want to think, I can hear my son like laughing somewhere in the distance. So thank you for that. I will take that and run with it.
Okay. And let's remember, this is a practice. It's not something that we can just flip the switch and say, okay, now I'm being patient. Or once we make the decision to be patient, the rest is easy. So part of our meditation may be, again, practicing patience with ourselves, and even when we're not being patient, or even when we're reacting against someone else not being patient. So let's start our 20 minutes. Accepting, not dodging.